But there's a second thing that we need to look at as well. When people file complaints, there's a lack of knowledge of what can be filed in a complaint, and what even that a complaint can't be filed. So it was actually an attorney who told me when I went to a judge over something, Judge Jack James out of Rockwall, Texas, injustice of the peace, Jack James, that guy who was out there who lied to me in court, the guy who sent me a letter, the guy who was so lazy, he said, well, I don't want to spend my weekend looking at the evidence. Well, I'm not going to do that. 18 pages, Judge Jack James, I'm not going to do that. And then he told me he would research something over the weekend. He did not do so. Lying, incompetent, injustice of the peace, Jack James immediately went back to his office and dismissed my case with prejudice. An attorney said, hey, you can file a complaint against them. I had no idea that this was available. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct is online. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct, I'll provide a link right here. You can actually file a complaint against a judge. But it's not just that you file a complaint, you need to know what you're filing a complaint about. And this was the first time that I'd ever filed a complaint. I had no idea that I could even do so, and I'm not sure that I had every idea that what I should put into it. I was contesting the fact that he specifically said, you know, I think I've beaten you up enough. Is it really the judge's role to beat me up? Is it really the judge's role to not know if he has jurisdiction or not? Or to claim that he has no jurisdiction because somebody who does not cite any type of authority to say, Judge, you have no jurisdiction. Well, do you have any statute for that? No, I don't. Oh, okay, well, I guess that's good enough. When his own clerk, the person who was working for him, said, absolutely he has jurisdiction, and I'm plenty of time within the time frame. But injustice of the peace, Jack James did not know this. Anyway, when I filed my complaint with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, I put those things in there, but they thought I was contesting his decision. And what I was contesting was the fact that he was an abusive judge, abusive toward me, he was incompetent, and that he should have been disciplined at the very least. He did not provide me any due process. He did not continue on with the things that he should have done. Now, he's not as tyrannical as many of these other people that I've seen, but that was my first taste of injustice through injustice of the peace, Jack James, Rockwall, Precinct 1, Rockwall, Texas. So when you file a complaint, my complaint was long. I had no idea what I was doing. I figured if I don't file more information, they're not going to look at it. They're going to say, well, you didn't file this. So I put all of this information down. I look into the complaint right now. I put too much information down there. I should have stuck to just a couple of things. And in particular, what they are looking for is there are canons of judicial conduct. So canon number 1 of the judicial conduct, they are supposed to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. The integrity is a big word here that they need to uphold. They need to, canon number 2, they need to avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all of the judge's activities. Canon number 3, the judge should be performing the duties of judicial office impartially and diligently. He should not be threatening to beat up a person who's come before him, and he should not be saying to the respondent, oh, okay, let me give you a little softball here, let me help you out. And he also tried to act as my lawyer from the bench. I came here where I had a very clear case and had injustice of the peace, Jack James, simply done his job the way he should have. It would have been very clear, but instead he squelched the evidence, he did not accept evidence, and he lied on the letter saying that he had reviewed the evidence. He was a liar. I will say this, I will maintain this. He is a liar, and he certainly was not impartial. And he also threatened, well, I've beaten you up enough. That was not his job. Canon 4, he needs to conduct his extrajudicial activities to minimize the risk of conflict with judicial obligation. He needs to refrain from inappropriate political activity. He needs to be in compliance with the Code of Judicial Conduct. How about that? Our judges have judicial codes of conduct. Are they in compliance with them? If not, why not? And they talk about the effective date of compliance, the construction of terminology of the code, and stuff like that. So when you file a complaint with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, it's a good thing to have the canons of judicial conduct beside you. Judge so-and-so, injustice of the peace, Jack James, violated canon blank blank, and here's how he did it. And you need to have proof. Now, this is the problem that we have right now, because in most of these instances, we are not allowed to take cameras into courts. We are not allowed to take audio recordings into court. If they do, the judges will say, you can't record this, and if you do, you're in contempt of court. This is the trick that they pull to make themselves immune from any complaints. The judges, if they really cared, they would make sure, yes, I want this hearing videotaped and audio taped, and yes, I will make it available. And furthermore, I believe that every litigant who goes before a judge should be given a DVD copy of the litigation that just took place, so that he or she can review it later on, apart from the stress of being in the courtroom. And that would also be great too, because maybe they need to review what the attorneys have done or not done on their behalf and file a bar complaint against them. It's very difficult to get evidence in. You have to have people with you. What I would say is, if you go to courts right now, make sure you take several people with you and make sure everybody is willing to, knows what they're doing, and are willing to write an affidavit if they see judicial abuse, which happens frequently in our courts in Texas, and then send them to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I'm not saying to collude with any of this stuff at all. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to set people up, but we need to hold these judges to account. I know in my instance, this is Judge Jack James, and I voted for him when I lived in Rockwell. I voted for this guy. That's the part that really fries me. I voted for him because he was a Republican, and yet he is an injustice for sure. And there was another judge that did the same. I voted Republican judges, and unfortunately, this is not just something that, as Greg Abbott would say, the socialist judges do. Our Republican judges do this stuff, engage in this stuff as well. They engage in judicial injustice and judicial tyranny. It is so bad that in the state of Texas, I do not even expect that you can get a fair, impartial, just trial in the majority of instances. My confidence in the judiciary is at an all-time low. It's in a negative, if anything. And that's why the first thing that I said, to distrust the judiciary marks the beginning of the end of society. If we cannot trust the judicial nature of our judges to do right, to act with integrity, we have a problem. We have a big problem in Texas. And when the judges do not permit us to collect evidence on them to submit to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, that's just a way that they get to hide their activities. But I also see another aspect that we could actually help with this, because people don't know how to fill out a complaint against the judge. They don't even know that they're allowed to fill out a complaint against the judge. So I think what we ought to do is this. I think we should train a volunteer cadre of people that would be trained by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. We'll go down there, we'll be trained, maybe say, start off with 25 people. I mean, this could be something that we could do another 25 people every year, 25 people this year, another 25 people after the end of 4 years. You have 100 people that are trained. They can go into the courts, they can just walk into any court that they want to. They'll have a badge, says that they're certified by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. They can observe the hearing. If a bailiff wants to say something, that's fine, but I've got my badge. I am here with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and I am here to supervise and watch this judge to make sure that this judge is acting with integrity. Surprise audits, just like surprise tests when we're at college or whatever like that, or high school or whatever, we often have these pop quizzes. You know, this would be a pop Scjc visit. And of course, it would not have the same authority to make decisions, but the people would be trained to know what exactly constitutes abuse and disregard and violation of the judicial canons, and they could file immediately. And furthermore, these people that go in, this cadre of people, they could immediately, upon leaving the court, if they needed to, they could tell the court clerk or whomever it is, you know, we need the transcript for here, for this, from this period of time, or we need this transcript. Tell the court reporter we need this transcript. It's a free court transcript because it's going to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. And we also need to have the video of this hearing, because too often the court transcripts, they do not contain the body language. They do not contain the threats, the nonverbal communication that takes place. Nonverbal communication is about 90% of our communication. We lack that in our court transcripts. So I believe there already are videos and audios in every courtroom, if not in every courtroom, in almost every courtroom. That's the reality. So every judge, every person needs to make sure that these courts are being recorded, videotaped, and recorded 100% of the time whenever they're in session. And if a person from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct cadre came in and visited and said, I believe we witnessed a violation of this judicial canon, I would like to have this video hearing as support that I can review to use for my report. And basically they would just have a couple of days to cough it up. We want integrity in our courts. Oh, that's just too much work. Well, you know what's too much work is when you see people that have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars fighting against injustice in our courts, having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to lawyers, fighting things that never should actually be fought for to begin with. And because it should be plain as day. And then you have incompetent lawyers sometimes. You have lawyers that offer ineffective assistance of counsel. So I believe that this is a solution that the legislature can take up. And I think the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, if they really are concerned about these issues as they say they are, and I believe that they are. I believe that they want to see justice in our courts. You could at least train 25 people a year. And I would tell you what, I bet that if they wanted to say, hey, we're going to train some people, how many volunteers can we get, that you can be court watchers. You can go in, we'll train you, we'll tell you what we want, here's how you do it, here's the forms that you use. I'll bet there'd be far more than 25 people signing up for that. I would not be surprised if there were at least 200 people that said, I am here. Because thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people have been abused by these courts, and they cannot believe the stuff that they've suffered. You would have many, many people who've said, yes, I will be there because I do not want to see this happen to my children or my grandchildren or my neighbors or my friend or my coworkers. And when we go into the courts, bailiffs should not be able to roughhouse us, like has happened to me when I've been in there and we have bailiffs threaten me, or the judges should not be able to threaten the trained cadre, such as a judge did to me as well.